going? Are you ready from a technology perspective?
Yep, YouTube is going, and I just started the Zoom recording. You are good to go.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the regular meeting of the Board of Investment and Taxation for February 12th. Madam Clerk, may I get you to call a roll, please?
Mayor Rilling is there.
Here.
Mr. Abrams,
Here.
Mr. Constant, Mr. Gilleret,
Here.
Mr. Kasimis, Miss Yang.
Here.
We have 4. We have a quorum.
Great. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Good evening. Welcome, everybody. Our first item of business tonight is approval of the minutes from our January 8th meeting. Can I get someone to move that item for discussion and approval?
So moved.
Thank you, Ann. Any changes, additions, corrections recommended for the minutes?
No, they've looked fine to me.
Okay. Seeing none, can we get a vote to approve the minutes? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, the minutes are approved. There are no special appropriations tonight, so we can move right to the transfer agenda, page 10 of our packet. Before we start to discuss the items, can I get someone to please move the transfer agenda for discussion and approval?
I'll
So
move it.
moved.
So moved, Troy.
Thank you. All right, Tom, do you want to do your usual and lead us through this part of the discussion?
Sure. Just 4 transfers this evening. The good news, for the first time in a while, only 1 from contingency. But we're going to start off tonight with the fire department. We have Ed McCabe joining us tonight. And recall that they've had to come back a few times for parts increases and such. That's Jeff Spar telling me to leave, not tonight. But anyway, Ed, you want to take it away? This one's for 100,000 coming out of regular salaries, primarily because they are down 10 plus firefighters, so they have some opportunity there to shift and transfer to cover this.
Right, yeah, that's correct, Tom. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. So this transfer will cover the final bills for the refurbishment of our 2010 ladder truck, which will go in service at Station 1. We decided to refurbish this truck so that we could get hopefully 10 more years out of it. That'll give the city a savings of about $1.7 million over a new truck. So as I said, this transfer will cover the remainder of the bills, and that truck will go in service next week.
Okay. And any questions for Ed? Ed, and I assume the underrun in salary is not something we're going to worry about. Obviously, you're going to try and backfill the hires, but that's money that's in the bank today that we won't be dealing with issues on going forward, correct?
That's correct, Ed, yes.
Thank you. All right, Tom, should we move to the next item then?
Yeah, next up is Park and Recreation, a transfer of $14,250. This is basically to shift some budget from their part-time account to their temporary account. I don't see Ken Hughes on at present because he has a pretty full plate when a storm is coming, so he asked me to address this, and I was happy to do so. So basically, the difference between part-time is just regular part-time people that work 19 3/4 hours a week on average. And the temporary are more their seasonal employees, and Ken has a fair amount of those between his camp counselors and his lifeguards. So there were a couple of individuals that were mapped in correctly on our payroll system, since corrected, but he would like to clean this up, make the transfer, and allocate the budget appropriately.
Thank you. Any questions on this item? Okay, seeing none, let's keep moving. Tom, we're on a roll.
All right, the next one is Lisa B on the tax collector side. And she has joined us, so you might as well take it away. You're here. You can talk to it.
Thank
Thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, we had a billing issue over the summer where there were a large number of motor vehicle bills that were issued with assessments that were not right, and we had to reissue those bills. We went through a series of discussions with the administration and with the CFO, Mr. Dakowitz, about how to handle this. Some people were getting a bill for more money, but other individuals were getting a bill for less money. And we made the commitment that we were going to get this done. At the time, Henry had said if we needed to hire extra help to process all these refunds, we would do that. But we ended up not hiring anybody else. We just tried to get it done ourselves. But we did work, my staff did work a lot of overtime on this, trying to process all these refunds and so forth, credits. We're actually still working on this now, but we wiped out our overtime account. So finance was recommending that we could transfer. We had money in a part-time account that we never had any part-time people helping us this year. So I have some money there, and I also have money in another account. So we're asking for 12,500 to cover this. For
Okay.
basically clerical costs.
Questions for Lisa? Lisa, just a quick question. You mentioned you're still working on all of the corrections. Do you expect additional overtime expense required to address that, or are you handling the rest of it during regular working hours?
Yeah, we're good now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, Tom, shall we move to the health department?
Yeah, the final one is a repeat of either last month or 2 months ago. Recall Deanna was here for the condemnation, so that covers a couple of things: fires, when residents are displaced because of fires, and also when people have to leave due to zoning violations, and a facility is closed down or slapped with warnings and fines and such. So anyway, Deanna's here, but before she gets started, I know last time we talked about what the immediate need was versus what she was asking for. So this 35 is the immediate need plus, and that was a collective decision on both of our parts. I know we do this meeting every month. I'm not sure that Deanna wants to come back every month as needed, but if that's what the direction is, so be it. But just want to preface it that we discussed this ahead of time. It was a collective decision. So Deanna, take it away.
Thank you, Tom. Good evening, everybody. So since I last saw you, we had some additional invoices come in. So we expended the line item more, and we've done some estimates on, additional invoices that are going to come in and what we think the costs are going to be through the end of February. And so our projections are about $28,000 more in costs. And then we do have some money that we had put on another account that needs to be journaled over, which would be about $6,000. And so that totals about $34,000. We do have about 10,000, well, not about, last I checked a few hours ago, $10,451.26 left in the relocation account. So that would give us a little bit of money to knowing that we have 4 months left in the year. So that's why we're requesting this amount. So thank you for your consideration. We did have just to give you a little more information, we had a situation with a 4-family house that had carbon monoxide poisoning, so people need to be relocated immediately. And since then, the furnace has been fixed, and so the families are able to be back. But we have situations like that can pop up that takes they need to be relocated.
Okay. Questions?
How many units does these two line items cover? The one in January, which was 30,000, and then this one, which is 35.
Sure. So that was a 4-family, and then we have 2 people remaining that are that we're covering, that we're trying to relocate. And so before that, though, we had a house that was a 1-family for flooding, another one for 2 others related to fires. So some of them were past ones that were, the invoices are coming in now, and some of them are like the immediate ones. that have happened within the past month.
So the 65,000 is covering 3 homes?
Oh, the 65, like for the entire, for the entire year. I have the numbers for, it was 15 properties that we've had to relocate it for the past year and a half, that involved like about 70 individuals.
Thank you.
Any additional questions for Deanna? Deanna, Tom, I agree with the immediate need and the additional, but did I just want to reconfirm I heard you right, Deanna? This leaves you with this additional 35, it leaves you about $10,000, a little bit more to cover anything else that may come up at this point.
Correct.
Okay, thank you for the clarification. All right, any last questions on any of the proposed transfers by anyone? Seeing none, all in favor of approving the transfer items as presented, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? The transfers are approved. Thank you all very much. Moving to section C of our agenda, we're going to go through the recommended operating budget and then the contingency tracker. Tom, I will again turn it to you.
Okay,
Mr.
before I
Chairman,
get started, Mr. Mayor, would you, yep.
If I could, 1 second, Mr. Chairman. I usually want to say something before the budget presentation. And thank you for relinquishing the floor, Mr. Ellis. Yeah, this is a work in progress. I want to remind everybody that the budget process is far from over. We take a look at line by line, meet with the department heads, make changes where we feel it's appropriate. Right now, we're waiting for some more numbers. Tom and I and Mr. Livingston and Agnes had a meeting this afternoon to go over some of the items, but we're still looking for a few numbers so we can make some final projections. My plan, as always, is and always has been to keep taxes as low as we possibly can. And that has not changed this year. We're going to do everything we can to bring the budget into line with past years so that we don't have any tax increases that are overburdensome on the citizens of Norwalk. So having said that, I relinquish back to Mr. Ellis.
All right, I'm gonna share my screen here. Hey, can we see, everybody see it?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so this is the recommended operating budget for 24-25. Just a brief of what we'll go through here, the budget process, the calendar, what we track to, much of it driven by charter mandates. The recommended operating budget, I will touch on the COVID and ARPA funds, or what's left of them, I should say, by this point. And then we'll get into the operating budget by city department and the relative percentages for each division. And then a quick analysis on the unrestricted unassigned fund balance, what we also call the rainy day fund. And then a very brief conclusion. As the mayor said, we do not have all of the what we call the below the line numbers. So we will not be seeing an impact to mill rates or average tax bills this evening, but we are working on that with our tax assessors and others. So here's a little quick overview of where we are on the calendar. So you can see the third item, we're doing the mayor's recommended budget tonight. So this is actually the first time that we announced the percentages and the recommendation for the Board of Ed side as well. And then several more meetings coming up in February. It doesn't say it here, but there is a public hearing that the Finance and Claims Committee is having this Thursday, which is obviously an opportunity for concerned residents to voice their opinions on what they would like to see, and whether it's increased or decreased. And then we move through the process of setting the initial budget cap, and then we get into our BET meetings in mid-March. That's where we meet with individual departments and review all their line items and make recommendations as well. the BET public hearing on the 20th, and then we forward the budget to the to the Common Council on the 25th. Common Council sets the final cap on April 9th, and as is convention, BET sets the final vote of the tax levy on the first Monday in May, which this year is May 6th. So just a little history of the allocations between the city and the Board of Education. We've got history going back here 6 years now. And it basically the increase and the decrease, or increase, decrease in dollars as well as percentages. And then, sorry, spiked out for the Board of Ed only, and then a grand total for the city and Board of Ed. Any questions on that one? There's a lot of data here, but essentially we're at 40 to 60% city versus Board of Ed at this point, which is fairly consistent with what it's been historically. Good to go?
Just taking a minute to consume it
Yeah.
all. Forgive me.
So here we are right here. That's the recommended column 24 and 25.
Yeah.
Roughly 40 to 60, consistent with what we've seen historically.
So if I read this correctly, we're recommending a 6.3% increase on the city side and a 3.3% increase on the Board of Ed side for a net of 4.5.
Note that that number includes in-kind services. So
Okay.
you'll see the true expenditure percentages coming up next.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, not next. One more. Just real quick here, COVID and ARPA. Obviously, we had a considerable amount of money, $39 million on the city side. But the point that I wanted to bring here was this is over. All the money is committed, obligated. There's no more of this. The big savings with ARPA was taking pressure off of the capital projects. There were a number of pretty significant items that we were able to do with ARPA funds. But again, this is over. It has to be, everything has to be obligated by December of 2024. And I should say all the money has been allocated. Everybody has projects lined up. So we'll have no problem making that. And just from a logistic perspective, the final checks have to be cut by December of 26. So we have plenty of time for that, which I think is better than some other neighboring municipalities that are struggling to spend their ARPA funding, but not us.
Mhm.
All right, and then we've got our recommended increases. So on the Board of Ed public school side, we're recommending an increase of 10.2 million, or 4.5 over last year's approved amount. Total amount is 236.8 million. On the city side, just a little bit less at 4.46, an increase of 8.8 million, or 197.1 million. Total recommended amount 205.9, which is basically, I'm sorry, 205.9 on the city side, which is basically just a shade under 4.5%. So the blended rate is, I'm calling it 4.5% overall. All right, then to dig into the division level, these are sorted in descending order of dollar amount. So debt service is our single biggest item at 42.6 million. That's an increase of about 5.5% year over year. Public Works next, 3.2%. Police coming in at 3%. Recall the mayor's original guidance was 3%. So we scrubbed this as hard as we could. I will tell you that there were requests for 18 additional headcount citywide, not including for Norwalk Public Schools. These recommended numbers include 0. No additional heads anywhere. That's how hard we had to dig. So,
Okay.
so what else we got? We got fire department came in at 3.1%. Pension plans up 12.4%. Notable here, recall last year we had a considerable savings on our OPEB. So that really helped out citywide on all the percentages, but we don't have that luxury this year. So the year over year calculation shows a pretty big jump at 12.4%. Community services coming in at 4.6%, finance at 6.7%. That is largely due to cybersecurity and software expense. Both of those are reflective of the recent efficiency study recommendations. So Joyce did send me a handful of cuts, probably totaling about $70,000. So that 6.7% will likely come down a little bit, but not too much. Economic and community development at 5.7%. They inherited a new department from Public Works, so that inflates theirs a little bit. And the other thing to consider here, and it happened somewhere else, recall that during last year's process, we approved several headcount adds, but only for half a year. So when you look at a half year salary versus upcoming a full year salary, the year-over-year comparative drives it up a little bit. Corporation counsel, okay. Contingency, very, very large increase, and that is due to our ongoing contract negotiations with the labor unions. So those expire on June 30th, and we anticipate that sometime in the next fiscal year, those will be settled. So we've set aside an amount for retro pay based on whatever increases they settle on. Last time there was a negotiation 4 years ago, they ended up signing in October, I believe. So the payout was in November. No guarantee that's going to happen again, but that's the reason for that dramatic increase. Not much on grants. Chief of staff is again another one of those half headcount increases. The webmaster, recall that hire, that is in the chief of staff office, and also they hired another assistant city clerk dedicated just to the common council. We had to do that because that's a charter mandate, so that's driving that up, but it's not a significant amount of money. And the rest of the way, mostly pretty small, except for the equity inclusion officer from a percentage perspective. But again, that's a small dollar amount. That's just to add some training, some office supplies, basically get that office up and running, which we did not do last year. And then legislative is up 57.4%, but again, not a significant amount, $10,000. And that's basically for training for the new common council members. So overall, if we round it down to one decimal, 4.5, 4.5, 4.5 across the board.
All right. Questions for Tom?
Good. All right.
Okay.
So then just reiterating some of the points that I just mentioned, the employee benefits and insurance, some savings there on the health insurance side. And our two big hitters were the debt service and the pensions, both in terms of percentages and dollar amounts. And no flexibility in either of those two to reduce.
Right.
And then a look at our fund balance. Again, this is the rainy day fund going historically back to 2019. We are recommending a $6 million drawdown for the second year in a row, which will bring our percentage of total general fund expenditures down to about 15.1%. You'll see that it's been coming down gradually over the last few years as we've done these drawdowns. But that's what we're recommending right now. We have flexibility on that. I'm in the process of doing some scenario analyses at 6 million and various other amounts to see the impact on the tax bills.
Tom, can you remind me, and I know Henry's here, he might know the number off his head, what the recommended percentage was in terms of that giant note at the bottom on bond ratings when we hit a number that starts to make people nervous? I just can't remember what that was.
There are, you want to, Henry, or you want?
No, Tom, you're doing great.
There are a variety of different factors they look at. Any individual one is not a showstopper, but they look at everything collectively. So the two things that you're probably thinking of, one is our overall debt ceiling, which right now is at 385 million. That was a growing concern when our limit was 400 million. Last year, our bond advisor, Bill Lindsay, did an analysis based on Moody's changing their methodology and came up with the recommendation that our new debt debt limit is 500 million, not 400 million. So that one is not so much of a factor anymore. The other one that's a bit of a factor, and we've been pretty close to it over the last few years, is the debt service expense versus the total operating budget. So they don't want to see your total they don't want to see that number higher than 10% of your total operating budget. So if we were to go back to this right here, the debt service 42.6 out of 442, so we're within that. So those are the two most common ones that they look at. And again, you know, as Henry said before, in years past, generally when they see us approaching or exceeding their thresholds, you're put on watch. What the rating agencies don't like to do is take down your rating and then struggle to bring it back up the next year. They want to give you a chance to correct it before actually taking it down.
Tom, I would just try to remember, you mentioned 385 million of debt, but we did issue bonds last August. And so our current debt outstanding is higher than that, isn't it?
Well, that's right from remember, you take only the principal amount of our 30-year debt schedule, and that's at 385 right now. That was according to Bill.
Okay.
All right, any other items on this page?
Right now, I don't think.
Say again?
I'm looking at everybody's images. I don't see anybody raising hands or shaking heads, so.
Yeah, and then just, you know, in conclusion, we try to be balanced, we try to be fair and exercise fiscal restraint. You heard the mayor, you know, talk about this at the beginning about sharpening the pencils, wants versus needs, and doing our darndest to make sure the taxes remain relatively reasonable for our residents.
Thomas Troy, thank you for that presentation and your team's hard work. As always, my 5th or 6th year going into budget season, and my concerns have always been, I really appreciate the guardrails from the agencies, and I would appreciate and I look forward to continuing to keep our AAA rating. And between our operating budget and a capital budget that I looked at, I know we're not talking about that this evening. I appreciate your comments on that, and I really want to stay within the guardrails that will keep us in a AAA setting, knowing that we still have a lot of opportunity, you know, debt, unfunded debt that we have not bonded yet, and a lot of projects. So we have to continue to make tough decisions. I think the 4.5% blended rate for the year, it is what it is. I know the city side has done a very good job, and I know the board will continue to do a good job in keeping within their guidelines. And once again, I appreciate your work. Now, is Henry going to be helping us out this year? Or I didn't know.
He's on call for me.
Oh, okay. I just welcome it, but okay.
A little bit of real-time mentoring, huh, Tom?
Well, it's also a third set of eyes, a sanity check, you know, just to make sure that things are within reason. Henry has a knack for doing some quick calculations and saying, yeah, that makes sense based on X, or no, that doesn't make sense based on Y. So I will take the assistance while I can.
So I guess my final preliminary look at where we are right now, you feel comfortable that with this and the capital budget, we should continue to keep our AAA rating?
I would say so, yes.
Thank you.
And it's Ann, and the projected interest expense includes what you anticipate to be bonded this year?
The debt service?
Yes.
So that is reflective to and including the 90 million, or what would we issue, 70 million last year? That is inclusive of the last August issue of debt. So if we were to do nothing, that number will not, well, that number will not change for 2025. But what we end up issuing this August will change the 26 number.
And
I understand.
usually, I'm sorry, excuse me. usually when we issue bonds, which we do every summer, we do not pay interest for that first year. So that's why this estimated number is usually accurate for the year's budget.
Got it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, any additional questions on this? Tom, I echo the comments of the fellow board members. Thank you. Great job, you, the team, on all of this effort. Realize that not everything is finally closed, but we'll get closer, and the fun begins next month. One quick minor procedural thing just on the calendar. You showed budget reviews starting the 6th. I believe I saw a meeting for us. Our first budget review is Monday, the 4th of March. Not a big deal, but do I either have the calendar wrong or?
Yeah, that, unless, I'm just thinking that's the next BET meeting. I can't imagine we would have scheduled both.
Maybe I have it wrong that way, Tom, that it
Yeah.
just was a regular BET meeting.
Yeah,
Forgive me.
that's the first Monday. In the absence of a holiday, it'll stay the first Mondays. Well,
Okay, forgive me
other than
then.
other than the February one.
Forgive me for mixing up my meetings. I apologize.
Well, let me know if you see otherwise, but I don't think.
No, I probably just mixed up my meetings.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you for that. Do you want to move through the contingency tracker really quickly, Tom?
Yeah, so we have, let's see, we have $1.5 million budget. We've spent 872, we've got 628 left. So if we count Deanna's 35, we're at a little under 600,000 for the balance of the year. So I think we're in good shape, obviously in the absence of any major event. But so far so good, I would say.
Okay. Any questions from anybody on where we stand from a contingency perspective? All right, then shall we move to other business?
Yes, well, no, we just did other business.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, additional information and
Additional information.
yeah, and I
I'm
don't
0 for 2 tonight, so forgive me.
I don't know if you need to move or vote on this, but Lisa just let me know she had to leave to go home. She's gonna dial in when she gets home, so if Alan would like to go, switch the order just a little bit. In fact, actually, didn't I promise you that you could go first last month? And I forgot.
Yippee! You
So,
did.
anyway,
you
take
did.
it away, Alan.
Good. Well, good evening, everybody. It's interesting looking at these numbers. Kind of shows us what a little minnow the Oak Hills Park Authority is compared to the big pool of the city of Norwalk. But however, we will continue to do our part so that we are able to make some money and spend it on our capital improvements. So obviously, we're now in the depths of winter. We look at the month of December, which is a really slow time for us, obviously. And just from a little numbers point of view, and on the revenue side of December, we were supposed to do $41,000, $48,000. We actually, well, 41,000. We did 56, so we were $15,000 over. It was kind of a nice. The weather wasn't as bad, so we did a bit more business. Obviously, our expenses are up during that time. Budget was 99,000. We ended up doing cost us 106,000. So we were $7,000 over in expenses, with $15,000 over in revenue. So for the month of December, we were actually we were 8,000 better than we thought. We only lost $50,000 compared to $58,000. So that was the month of December. On a year-to-date basis, we find ourselves revenue-wise $1,226,000, the budget $1,328,000 actual. On revenue side, we're $102,000 over our revenue budget. Expense budget pretty much in line, $8,000 over. So for the period, from July until December, we're actually $95,000 better than our budget. So we continue the trend of doing well from an operating point of view here at Oak Hills. So if anybody has any questions on the month of December or where we are on a year-to-date basis, if not, I'll just update you on the restaurant and on a major capital program that we're looking to do next year. Any questions on the operations of where we are so far?
No, doesn't seem to be. Thank you, Alan.
Okay. Just an update on the restaurant. We are 95% ready to complete this transaction. We've kind of settled on all of the major issues. Just a paperwork issue now. The final document is with the candidate who's going to be operating it, and we anticipate them signing the document within the next day or so. Oak Hills has a meeting this Thursday, Oak Hills Park Authority, where we, all things being equal, we hope to agree to everything at that time, get it signed, and just go to the city, just to council to take a look at it and overview it. So looking good on that end. We looking at an April 1st opening. We hope to be earlier, but by the time we need to get the liquor license, got to get everything done, get everything up to speed, get it all cleaned out and stuff like that. So we look at an April 1st opening, and as soon as the deal is done, we should be in a position to make the announcements at that time. So we look forward to doing that. And that's an update on the restaurant. If anybody has any questions.
Doesn't appear to.
Okay, and just finally, on our capital project next year, we have a big project coming out, which is the renovation of the sand traps and the bunkers, which has been long awaited by many of the golfers. It is a 2-year project, and we need to go out to bid and to get the bids in. We worked with the city again, using the purchasing RFP process. Robert Stowes was a great help to us in these matters. Again, got our 3 bids in. We're going to be spending about $200,000 on our first phased bunker and trap. We'll be replacing a lot of those and putting new sand in and bringing them up to speed. And that will commence in the next fiscal year, probably in October and November of this year. We will get that job done, and then the second phase will be the year after. But this will be the major project we have, and apart from contingency, this will probably be the main thing that we will be able to do for next year. I know a lot of golf have been waiting for this, and we will be able to do it starting in probably October, November of this year, but next fiscal year. And that's my update, Mr. Chairman. Any questions?
Yeah.
I have a question. If I look at your balance sheet on the long-term liabilities, it looks as if you are doing capital leases on a fair amount of equipment, such that your overall long-term debt balance has gone up by 40,000, despite paying down the city 100. So do you have a certain cap level of what you're looking to do in terms of long-term liabilities?
And what we look at basically is, things drop off. I don't have it in front of me, but I know that as we normally do a lot of this equipment on a 5-year basis, and things drop off and new things come on. We did add recently about $80,000 worth of new equipment for fairway mowers and for greens mowers. These were things that we really did need. And it actually has helped us from an operational point of view, because with this new equipment, it's actually helped us reduce our labor a bit, because these machines are so much more efficient. But we obviously have to keep an eye on to make sure that we don't just spend willy-nilly on a lot of this equipment. Jim Shell, the ground superintendent, does come to us and from a capital basis, so we'd like to do this. And we've approved it so far, but we do keep an eye on it, and we have made a couple of quite big purchases, which hopefully in the near future we won't have to spend as much as we spent over the last maybe 1 or 2 years.
Thanks.
Okay.
Additional questions? Alan, I guess I just have one. I noticed that in our packet, you've concluded the long-awaited audit report. Thank you. I've only had a chance to skim it. There anything that showed up here that is a concern to you or the rest of the board or areas of focus?
Not really. I haven't really studied it, but one thing I would say is we are going to shop the audit because we weren't too happy with how long it took for the audit to take place and maybe the service that provided by this company. And I think I've dealt with in my club management career with a couple of other companies, and I think it's good to go out and just to see who else is out there as well. So we will be looking to do that, working with the controller to shop the audit. I don't think there's anything that I saw out there that rings any bells as far as things that are out of line. I'm not dreadfully up to date on a lot of balance sheet items, I'll be very honest with you, but I do talk to Mark, the controller, but I don't think there's anything out there that we do have a meeting this Thursday, so and I think it's the first time that the audit has actually been produced since this, so we should probably talk about it this meeting, I think.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
Alan, maybe you might want to talk with the city and see, I know we got their financials, you can see who they use for their auditors, maybe they might give you some type of volume discount
Sure.
there.
Yeah, the good thing is there's an outfit called Condon Amara McGinty Donnelly who audits about 85% of the private clubs in the Northeast and Fairfield County. I'm very familiar with them. I've worked with them, so I can kind of put the hard work on and say basically, listen, we're a small municipal club. Do us a favor and give us some preferential rates. So we'll do that as well. But thank you, Troy.
Good luck.
Thanks.
Any other questions at all for Alan? All right, thank you very much, Alan. Really appreciate it.
Welcome. Thank you.
All right. So Tom, either Lisa has not sped or was speeding and has been pulled over by Norwalk's finest at this point.
Yeah, well, she, you guys, I don't know if you saw your emails yet, but she did forward along the latest write-up as well as the latest tax collection report. So I would say, especially because she's not feeling too well. I don't know if you could tell by her voice, but she's fighting a cold as well. So yeah, I would say if you haven't, review the materials. If you have anything, shoot her an email or shoot it to me and I can get it to her. And then I would say that's acceptable. I looked at them quickly. I didn't see anything out of the ordinary. Looks like the collections are still on track. We're slightly ahead of last year, so nothing alarming.
Yep, I agree. I skimmed it right before the meeting, so I think we're in good shape there. And I hope she feels better. Okay. With that being said, before we adjourn, Mr. Mayor, any closing remarks? Since I didn't ask you during the budget review, I better check now.
No, I think Tom did a great job of presenting, and thank you, Henry, for being here to work with us as well and to give us another set of eyes. As I mentioned, it is my goal to keep taxes as low as possible. We should be getting the numbers we need and be able to look at our grand list numbers as well as our mill rate, and from that point on, start scrubbing. I know there's a lot of work ahead of this body, and appreciate the time that you all spend.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Tom, any other items before we close?
No, just back onto our regular first Monday schedule, which, as we talked about earlier, is March 4th.
Okay, very good. That being said, can I get a motion to adjourn, please?
So moved.
Thank you. We are adjourned. Have a nice evening, everybody. Thank you for your time and all your efforts.
Good night.
Good
Thank
night.
you.